Ready.
Oh gosh. Reporting live from Australia. You may know a lot about Australia, but do you know who the native Australians are? They are the oldest surviving culture in the world, and the longest continuing religion in the world. They are known as the Aboriginals.
The Aboriginals recorded their culture as rock art, and many ancient paintings in northern Australia depict people dressed the same way they continue to dress today, dancing and singing to many traditions they continue to carry today. The Aboriginals of Australia have many customs that are like the Native Americans of the U.S., such as the paint they wear, the way they dress, and their traditions as a whole.
Today you are going to be witnessing what the Aboriginal culture and traditions are like.
Like many other religions, Aboriginal religion is characterized by the gods and goddesses who created the environment and all people. But rather than praying to one single god as a culture as a whole, each group of Aboriginals usually believes in a variety of different deities instead. Groups vary depending on which region they are located in, and each tribe believes in different things. The image of these deities are usually depicted in some sort of tangible and recognizable form. For example, this image could be anything like certain feature of landscape, an image on a piece of rock art, a plant, or an animal. The landscape features could resemble the literal embodiment of that deity, or it could represent the result of something that was done by this deity or to this deity during creation time. The second is the group of the ancestral beings, those who are believed to be direct ancestors of those living today and who taught the first people how to live by making tools and weapons and hunting and gathering. These ancestral beings are believed to be represented by a plant or animal form rather than a human form. Aboriginal deities fall into three main groups, and many will belong to one, two, or all three of these groups. The first is the group of the creation beings, those deities who are involved with the creation of people, landscape, and the environment. The third is the group of the totemic beings. These represent the original form of an animal, plant, or other object as it was in the creation period. Aboriginal society in Australia is divided into groups. Each person belongs to one of these groups and is signified by a totem, sometimes referred to as a person's skin name. The leader of each of these groups are labeled as totemic or ancestral beings and help to define a person's origin and connections. For example, if a person is connected to a kangaroo totem, it may suggest that they were a kangaroo in a previous life and that other kangaroos are their relatives. Aboriginal people label the time that their landforms were created as the creation period. They also often interpret dreams as being the memory of things that happened during this creation period. In this way, to Aboriginal people, dreams are thought of much differently than the way we think of dreams. Because of this, another name for the creation period is the dream time. Many dreams, or images of the creation period, are carved into art forms in everything like weapons, body paint, utensils, and instruments.
Next, the social structure of society. The structure of society defines the relationships between people based on their age and birth. Boys and girls both undergo a series of ordeals that lead up to their acceptance into adulthood within their society. These ordeals vary across the country, including body mutilations, such as cuts to the skin, having 2 teeth knocked out, circumcision, subincision, and even amputations to the fingers. The leaders of society are the elders, who are the most senior men and women, who are respected by the others. The important decisions are made by the Council of Elders, which includes clan leaders and the most respected elders of each tribe. For example, in many tribes, a man has the job to care for his brother's children, his nieces and nephews. This shows that they have to care for more than just their own children. The kinship system is the family obligations and the spiritual sharing of totems and ancestral beings. The point of this system is to value the structures of people's relationships, obligations, and behaviors towards one another.
Even today, ceremonies continue to play an important role in Aboriginal culture. The ceremonies or rituals are still practiced in certain parts of Australia in order to ensure a good supply of plant and animal foods. Things like chanting, singing, dancing, and other ritual actions are put into place to reach out to the ancestral beings in hopes for their wishes to come true. Funeral ceremonies are an example of an important ritual in Aboriginal life. During this time of death of some person, the other people usually paint their whole bodies white and cut their bodies to show remorse for the loss of their loved one. They will then go through a series of rituals, songs, and dances to ensure that the lost one's spirit leaves the area and returns to its place of birth, where it can later be reborn again into a new life. There are then 2 stages to the actual burial. The primary burial is when the corpse is laid out on a wooden platform, covered in leaves and branches, and left there for months in order so that the flesh will rot away from the bones. The secondary burial is when the bones are collected, painted with red paint, and then dispersed of in various ways. Examples of ways that these bones are dispersed of would be having them placed in special hollow logs, wrapped in paper bark and left to disintegrate, or being carried around by relatives for years to come. Some of the biggest rituals performed by Aboriginals are the rites of passage, which serves as the children's initiation into adulthood. The original rite of passage is known as the walkabout. During this ritual, a group of 13-year-old boys will be sent out into the woods to live on their own for 6 months. The purpose of this ritual is to teach the boys how to survive on their own, and to also show them how their ancestors had to live many years ago. There are many other possible rites of passages that a child would have to go through in order to become an adult, and they vary within different tribes and regions. For example, the tossing ceremony, where 12-year-old boys will be tossed up in the air and caught by a group of their male relatives. The tooth knocking out ceremony is when a certain tooth is knocked out with a stone in order to be initiated into a particular rain totem. The fire ceremony is when the initiates sit under a brush shelter of bushes and trees, and others dance around them carrying torches lit with fire. At the end of the ceremony, the hot embers from the torches will crash down onto the initiates under the brush. Another version of this ceremony is when the initiates have to lay down on top of a pile of burning logs for up to 5 minutes. In most tribes, this ritual will signify the end of the initiation process.
Aboriginal art is integral to the culture and often inspired by religious and ceremonial aspects of life. Painted and engraved art has been applied to weaponry such as shields, spears, boomerangs, and clubs, utensils such as wooden columns and bark carryalls, sacred objects such as wooden boards, small wooden and stone tajira, pearl shell, and ceremonial poles. The walls and ceilings of bark shelters, the walls and ceilings of rock shelters, exposed rock beside waterholes and streams, and trees, such as sacred trees in particular. Other forms of art include stencils of hands, feet, and other body parts, and animals, painting and decorating of the body with feathers and paint with various colors and designs for ceremonial occasions, elaborate head dresses made from bark, feathers, string painted with clay, body adornments made from plant material, feathers, shells, and animal teeth, native beeswax to help shape small toys and ceremonial paraphernalia, carved wooden toys, dot painting, effigies of people, plants, and animals, thread cross strings, and elaborate sacred ground designs.
Go.
As you can see, the Aboriginals have some very unique and interesting ways of culture that they live by.
We hope you've enjoyed learning about the ancient natives of Australia.